Okay, guys, I want to talk to you about something. It's really heartfelt for me. Now, it's been bothering me because I have been following a situation on YouTube of a boy who needs a lung transplant. Lonnie, our landing crew. And I hear his mother talk about his lung function. He got BiPAP at home. Everything that they did for him. Put him on the transplant list. And she talked about what lung function you need to be on the transplant list. Now, please understand, I don't begrudge him a dang thing, okay? He deserves everything. My issue, and the thing that's been bothering me, is that I watched someone die that way and not get the things that he got. And it's not fair. Maybe part of the basket. She deserved the same treatment. I don't care how old she was. I don't care that she was a smoker. She deserved the same treatment. And that is my mother, in case you're new here. She deserved the same level of care. She deserved to get her BiPAP at home, which they kept refusing to give her. Well, it's funny, her lung function, okay, right now, Lonnie's lung function is at 13%, which is horrible and frightening. And according to what Stephanie's been told, the transplant list is 30% or under. My mother's was 15. Actually, it was 14. My mother's lung function was 14 at her last test. I'm sure it was less by the time she got sick the last time. They never offered her transplant, nor would they have because she was a smoker. I should look that up. Can a smoker get a lung transplant? Okay. Yes, it's a contraindication. They will not be considered for a lung transplant if you smoke. So that answers that, doesn't it? So, yeah. Yet, they will transplant a smoker's lungs into a non-smoker. I'm sorry. I don't want a smoker's lungs. I don't smoke. Why would I want damaged lungs? Now, I'm not worried about my own lungs. My last LFT, which is lung function test, was 85%, which is actually very good. And it showed asthma, which we all knew. So now that would explain that. Still doesn't explain why they wouldn't give her BiPAP at home, but they give him BiPAP at home. Now I realize Massachusetts and Colorado are two very different places. And he's a 17-year-old with an autoimmune disease. Yes, it's a well-controlled autoimmune disease, but I would think that that would have issues with a transplant. Maybe not, because you're taking basically the same meds. I'm also looking at this from my own point of view, because at some point, it is likely that I will need a liver. I know this. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about this, because it's been weighing heavy on my mind and heart. And understand, I want Lonnie to get his new lungs. I want him to have a life. He's 17 freaking years old. He just turned 17. He deserves a life outside of an oxygen tank in his bed. And I know my mother would be rooting for him to get lungs. We wouldn't begrudge that. I understand that. But at the same time, well, no buts. At the same time, I think my mother should have been afforded the same care. She should have been able to get her BiPAP at home. But at the end, they wouldn't even give it to her in the hospital until she went to a different hospital. So, and I understand that my mother had other issues, and I'm not just talking about smoking. She has always had a heart issue. For as long as I can remember, she took medication to control her heart rate because of her bicuspid valve. Instead of having 3 flaps that open in the valve, open and close in the valve, let the blood in and out, it only had 2 flaps. So it meant blood leaked back into the heart and just stayed in the heart. So she had to have antibiotics before she had any dental work or any surgery, anything, because she could get an infection in her heart because blood stayed in her heart. A little bit of blood stayed pulled in her heart. So, and that was something they talked about fixing before her lungs failed. You know, it's funny too, because they say he's in respiratory distress. He's in respiratory failure. At 14% lung function, my mother knew she was in end-stage COPD. She knew that. You know, everybody blamed her smoking, but there were other factors. Lifelong asthma. And nobody seems to take into consideration the fact that people her age who smoked didn't know the dangers when they started. Nicotine is highly addictive. That's why it pisses me off when I see young people smoking. It's like, really? You know the dangers. You know how addicting this drug is. Why would you start doing it? You know, I don't understand. A lot of them vape. Now, that being said, as far as a lung transplant goes, I wouldn't have a problem with getting a once in a while pot smoker's lungs. But a cigarette smoker's lungs? Yeah, no thank you. I just, yeah. I just don't understand. That's what's making it hard for me. Don't get me wrong, like I said, Lonnie deserves everything he's getting. I just believe my mother also deserved it. That's my only point. And I hope, like Hales, that he gets that lung transplant, that he's able to get the testing he needs, that he passes it so he can be on the list, and he gets the lung transplant. So, I wish him nothing but a long, healthy life. I just wished the same thing for my mother. You know, and I understand that, like I said, my mother had other things going on. You know, she had a heart condition. Her bones were literally falling apart. I think if they had gone in to try to put lungs in her, I'm not so sure they could have gotten her bones back together. And she wasn't in any condition to have like a hip replacement, which she needed. Her spine was literally crumbling, so that there was no fusion to be done because there was nothing to fuse. But she could have had hip replacements, but first of all, I think she was afraid of it, as I am. But also, her breathing didn't allow for surgery safely. And that's something to have to think about with Lonnie, is if he gets, if he all of a sudden needs gallbladder out, or which is unlikely at 17, or needs his appendix out, which is more likely in that age group. How are they going to do that with 13% lung function? They made it very clear to my mother at 14% that they wouldn't do surgery on her. Even if she had lung cancer, they wouldn't take a tumor out. So I worry about him if something happens and he needs an emergency operation of some sort. Yet at the same time, he'll do a lung transplant on some. I don't understand the dichotomy there, but and I do pray for him. Like I said, I know my mother's up there rooting for him. I used to think that she gave up because she wanted me to have a life. And I thought about it, and she knew. She had talked about the fact that she knew her disease was terminal. She also knew, but she had a great attitude about it, because she said, we all have a terminal disease. It's called life. Every day we live, we're dying. And she's right. She said, you know, but at the same time, she knew where the heck. Anyway. Whoops. I just feel, I feel bad. And I didn't, well, I did. I felt like she gave up. But I know that she knew that she didn't have long. I think she knew more than I knew, even though I knew in my heart things were bad. That things were getting worse. Someone said, my aunt, I'm gonna put my Aunt Janice on blast here because she actually said to me, she said, well, Auntie every day was sitting in that bed. She was fine when we went up and saw her. She was? And when we came down and saw her, she was? Don't even pretend you have a clue what was wrong with her. Because she wasn't fine. And then she talked about the therapies and stuff, and she had physical therapy. The physical therapist quit because my mother could not physically do it, and she was in too much pain. And the physical therapist said, I'm not putting you through this. I'm not torturing you. Lady, you know nothing. Then she said that she said all sorts of things about my mother that ticked me off. I know this has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but it kind of does. Because it's still a heartfelt chat about my mother. She said that my mother should have left my father, that my mother just all sorts of negative things, you know. I'm very proud, and I mentioned this in a previous video a couple of days ago, of my mother's achievements. Her certificates in accounting 1 and 2, you know, and for my aunt to say, well, basically, any idiot can get those. Certificates don't mean anything. It's not a degree. No, it's a piece of paper just like your degree is. It's a sign of achievement. As far as I'm concerned, that's accomplishment. And you know, I remember talking to her about how I was taught to feel good about my accomplishments, even if it's not an accomplishment to someone else. Okay, what I mean by that is if I get my high school diploma, which I did, for someone else it might have been an easy thing to do because they always got A's and they did really well. And yes, it's, you know, they're celebrating and they got their diploma and everything. It's a bigger accomplishment for me because I had to work 3 times as hard to get it. And my certificate for the dinosaurs, for the dinosaur paleobiology. As I said in my vlog the other day, will I ever use it? No. But you know what? It's an accomplishment. I finished a college course and passed. It makes me feel good. And her attitude is that it doesn't mean anything. And that your parents shouldn't be proud of basically things that anybody could do, things that you should be doing. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't believe parents should tell their kids they're proud of them because she believes they should know they're proud of them and that they shouldn't be proud of little things or whatever. And it's like, really? Because if you tell them you're proud of them, I forget exactly how she put it because it's been a while, but they'll only do things to make you proud or something like that. And the things that they do, they'll do things for praise or whatever. So don't praise them all the time or something like that. And it's like, really? If you don't praise your kid is going to feel terrible about themselves. And I know that there's a school of thought where it says, in parenting today, there's a school of thought, and I think that's where she's coming from, that you don't praise the thing that was done, you praise the child. Oh, I gotta change the battery, guys. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. What I was saying is there is a school of thought where in parenting today, the people believe that you don't praise what your child did, you praise your child or something along those lines. And that makes sense. But at the same time, when my parents would say, I'm so proud, I know they're proud of me because I accomplished whatever it was. You know what I mean? I think most kids can figure that out. What they're talking about in that school of parenting that I saw videos and read a little bit about was that they believe that kids will think that you're only proud of the accomplishment, the thing, and not them. I don't see that. But her attitude, and she said it to me, why should I tell them I'm proud of them? They know I'm proud of them, or something like that. It's nice to hear once in a while, Nice to get an arm around you and say, hey, you did great today. Like, like my mother, from the time I was little, made a point, and I'm sure my aunt would disagree with this too, of saying when she was angry about something I've done, if I did something wrong, she would always make the point of telling me, I am angry at what you did. I don't like what you did. I hate what you did. But I will always love you. I heard that my whole life. My entire childhood growing up. I don't like what you did. I am angry about what you did. And you will be punished for what you did. But understand, no matter how angry I get at what you did, I will always love you. So, and I think every kid should know that. I think that's a good thing for a parent to tell a kid. Yes, I'm angry at what you did. Just like, and I guess it would, no, because it was never confusing for me. Because when a parent is proud of what you've done, they're also proud of you. When they're angry at what you did, yes, they may be a little bit angry at you, but they never stop loving you. And that was sort of my mother's point. Yes, I'm angry, but I'm never going to stop loving you. And so it's, and that's what I was trying to get through to my aunt, and she just didn't understand it. I feel terrible. She made it sound like my mother kept me in the house. And no, my mother couldn't move. My mother couldn't make a meal. She couldn't get a cup of coffee on her own at the end of her life. The last, 4 years of her life. What part of that did you not understand? It was not safe to leave her alone. And she would say, but that wasn't your job. Well, she changed my bleepy diapers. It's my turn to give back. I'm sorry, but if you couldn't move around, your kids should be taking care of you. But they won't. You'll go in a nursing home. My parents weren't going in nursing homes. It just wasn't happening. And my mother was qualified to go in one. She would cry and say, I'll die in a nursing home. Yeah, I know. And she was in, and my aunt blaming Diane and me for my mother's death. She said, I were there, I'd have made her stay in the hospital. You'd have made her stay in the hospital? Okay, not likely. You don't know my mother. I tried to explain to her. At the first hospital, they weren't doing anything. She said they were keeping track of her. No, they weren't. She was folded in half on the bed, barely breathing. They did nothing. Took blood once in a while. That's about it. They said, oh, we don't have room where we do BiPAP, so we can't put her on it. Then send her to another hospital. I should have demanded that she be transferred. As my aunt said, she became septic overnight. She needed the vent overnight. No. She needed help for 4 days while she was in the hospital and didn't get any. You weren't here. Everything with Lonnie brought it all back up. Seeing Lonnie Jr. like that brought it all back up. It's like PTSD or something, you know? Which, by the way, I do have. I have been diagnosed by a psychologist. But that's from other things. But actually, I've been diagnosed by more than one psychologist. It's something I deal with, you know. I'm sure, along with the anxiety, I'm sure the Zoloft helps with that too. So I'm susceptible to it to begin with. And watching all this stuff with Lonnie Jr. is just making it. It's hard. It's triggering. That's the word. It's triggering for me. You know, and I think a lot of people, some people don't have, you know, don't trigger easily, you know. But for some people, it can be very triggering. Things can be, depending on their life, depending on what they've seen and stuff and been through. I can relate to Lonnie's mother, Stephanie, because we're actually a lot alike. We both do better talking about it. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you about it. Both of our therapists have told us that, and so has my mother, that I'm the type of person that needs to talk about it. And we also were diagnosed as mildly autistic in adulthood, both of us. So we both have trouble with things that make sense now, because now we know why. And it's funny because, not funny, haha, funny, ironic, that I happened to find her at a time when we both were just figuring out the autism, you know. And I'm grateful for her for that. Now, when I talk about Lonnie Jr.'s mother, Stephanie, that has nothing to do with Sebastian. His mother just happens to be Stephanie as well. He's doing terrific. He is rolling around on the floor. He is laughing his little head off. He's just doing amazing. And I already told you, Beckham sat up, which was his mother sitting in his shadow. I don't believe I'm getting this on camera. He just pulled himself up. It was extraordinary. So yeah, it's horrible to be so triggered, you know, to have all this stuff come back up. And I think that's what my therapist was worried about with me getting my mother's medical records, that it would be triggering. And some of it has been, you know, some of it I literally cried. But I didn't get as much as I thought I would get, you know, in terms of the earlier stuff. But at any rate, I feel, I don't know. I knew I wanted to talk to you guys about this because it helps me, you know. I just know that I don't know how to put it. That, like I said, this whole thing has brought back up all the things that my aunt said, and I just, it's horrible. I actually have a lot of it in my diary because I always bring my diary with me when I go on a trip so I can write in it. And yeah, not fun. So I have stuff from that whole trip. And I brought her my records to help me, not to put my parents down, you know. And were they perfect? No. Was she a perfect parent? Hell no. No one is. It's not like there's a guidebook that comes with, you know, it's not like a baby pops out with an instruction manual tied to its wrist, you know. Handle and care instructions, you know, zip tied to its wrist like a doll, you know. It just, that doesn't happen. So it would be a little weird if it did. Can you picture that? A baby comes out, there's a thing, you know, an elastic or a zip tie around the wrist with a little card. Handle and care instructions. Oh, that's funny. I think some babies should have the words handle with care written on them, but that's another story entirely. I was so triggered that I needed to talk. And thank you for listening. This has been a long one. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you for Tetris, and I'm going to start editing. Actually, I'm going to edit these videos before I edit these videos. So let me put this back over here. So I'm going to edit you before I edit, what do you call it? Adult April. So that's my plan. So let's go play Tetris for a little bit. Okay. I'll see you in a few. Love you guys. Thank you for sticking with me. I know it's been a long video. Please subscribe if you're new. Please hit the like button. Please comment some love. Bye guys. God bless you. I know I just ended the video, but I just remembered I cannot play Tetris because I can't figure out where the PS2 is plugged into at the moment. So I had forgotten about that little fiasco the other day. So I think I'm just going to end things. I'm going to start editing so that I can start with Adult April. So, sorry for jumping in here at the end of the video. As always, God bless you. Bye guys.